Episode 67, The Power of Alignment. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. In today's episode, I have a guest, and this episode is rich with all kinds of gold nuggets on surrendering to God and working in the flow, anchoring in our grace, and truly just working in total alignment with God's purpose in our life. But before we get started with that, I just want to invite you to join me. Actually started yesterday, which was August 26th, 2019. Started a 5-day challenge on reconnecting with the things that matter in life. I hope you will go to vannajohnson.com/challenge and join me in that challenge. I think you will love it. It will be so much worth your time to really get anchored in the things that are important in your life. Now let's get started with that episode. Hey everyone, I just want to welcome you today. I have a guest with me this morning, and I would like to introduce you to Stephanie O'Brien Martin. And I'm going to ask Stephanie to tell you a little bit about herself and her background. So Stephanie, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today.
I am honored to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with you and share my story.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear all about it.
Yeah, so my business name is Move by Purpose. I am the founder and creator of Move by Purpose, which I help coach Christ-centered, high-achieving women entrepreneurs and business leaders learn how to flow in alignment with God's plans and purposes for them, rather than forcing things to happen out of what other people tell them they need to do, what the world has told them to do, out of anxiety, fear, impatience, comparison, whatever that is, okay? And a lot of times people tend to do more things out of force than in flow, including me in my way of doing business. That was my story for about 3-4 years. And then I was always a believer. And then I learned what flow is, and surrender, and truly doing things in alignment with the kingdom and God's plans for you. And it made a world of difference. And so I designed this program called Flow versus Force, and it helps so many women entrepreneurs or business leaders get back to a state of clarity, of peace, of abundance, of just prosperity in mind, body, spirit, and they're able to do so much more of transformational work through their leadership, through their message, through their mission, because they've learned how to flow.
Oh, that is so beautiful and so absolutely needed. I have said in my own story that had I realized some of what you just talked about and the need to have that relationship and that need to not have to control everything in my previous career, I'd probably still be doing it because I really loved what I did. But I really felt the call to this. And I think it's important that we share with the world how important it is to surrender. That's one of my favorite words. So how beautiful. How did you get into this? What drew you to this? Do you have your own story, or is it just calling, or what happened?
So that can be a long story, how I got into business and Move by Purpose and all of that. I've been in business for 6 years, and I was a social worker previously. I always knew at a very young age, I knew that I was going to write books and speak. Like I would see Dave Ramsey or like Joyce Meyer, and I would see these people with these messages, and I knew I was going to end up doing that as well. But I had no training and no clue that they were entrepreneurs. I was so naive because I was so programmed through school. Entrepreneurship does not run in my family, and we're so programmed in public school that to work for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And you are trained to go get a degree, to go get a job and live happily ever after. And so I followed that plan because that was all I was taught. I knew nothing else. And so I went into social work because I did have a gift of like pastoring and encouraging and like walking with somebody through a hard time. And so that career field made sense to me. But less than 2 years into it, I was like, this isn't going to be how I do that. And so I really started doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I meant to do? Like, why do I have this burning desire to start writing? Why do I have all these visions about me speaking on stage? I hate speaking. Like all of these different things, like foreshadows of my life that I really do. Our purpose oftentimes is planted within us. And there's certain seasons in our life where it starts to sprout or stir up in us. Some people it's later in life. Some people it's super, super early. I was like in my 20s, which I still think is kind of early, but not as young as like hearing about people knowing what they were going to do at 5 years old, so.
But I have a question about that, because one of my theories is that God does plant those seeds even when we're a child. Do you find yourself kind of maybe were there breadcrumbs along the way, is the way I kind of say it, as far as realizing that, oh yeah, this was planted a long time ago. Do you see that?
I wouldn't say as young as like 5, but what I could say is characteristics of my empathy and compassion were very, very definitely not my leadership skills. I was a little bit of a defiant child, which also made me a great leader. And adults and mentors saw that, which is why they were like, you have this amazing compassion. Like you would always find the child that was made fun of. You would always you would always know the kid without even knowing. You have this ability to like find the kid whose mother was sick with cancer or whose parents were going through a divorce. And you always found a way to be friends with them, even when you were in kindergarten. So they always saw that. So that, yes. What I didn't realize, like some people, like my brother-in-law, for example, at 5 would dress up in a suit and carry a briefcase and talk and pretend he was in a courtroom and knew he was going to be an attorney. And sure enough, he is an attorney and he loves his job. So that was a specific career / calling that happened to be combined that he knew. Since mine's entrepreneurial, it's not always that clearly defined. Mm-hmm. So the gifting, yes. And then that's why people said you'd make a great pastor or a great therapist or a great social worker, putting that into a defined career. But God had a different plan. It was like, no, you're going to speak and write books and coach, and you have to create that. Yes. So
beautiful. Yes. Well, thank you for that diversion. I hope you didn't lose your train of thought, if there was anything else you wanted to say before I interrupted you. So
no, I think that's a great question. I love that you helped unpack that, because that is a frequent question. People say, what have you done as a child to pass time and things like that? And if it's not a clearly defined like textbook, database career, people can get really stuck on that.
Right. Exactly. For me, it's kind of one of those things where I love to read. I always thought I wanted to be an author. And then another stage, I wanted to be an attorney, wanted to be an architect, and all of that. And God took those things and wrapped them up into my first career. And then, through that, I evolved into that leadership and that, I relate to the compassion, and I was always coaching people through the work. So yeah, it's I just am fascinated by how the experiences in our life draw us to where we need to be. And I assume you see that with the people that you're working with as well, right?
Yes. It's really funny because I can pick up and tune in just from listening to what they're saying. The first 5 minutes, I already know what it is. But, as a coach, like, one of the things about coaching is you're not necessarily telling them what to do or giving them the answers. You're creating the space and asking powerful questions to draw out the answers within them. And so it does require patience, because I so badly want to be like, this is clear for me, from my lens, exactly what you are created to do. I want to tell them that in 5 minutes. But if it's not coming from them, it's not going to stick. It's going to be somebody else telling you what to do. And until it's that full embodied realization from within themselves, they're going to second guess it. They're going to doubt it. They're going to sabotage it. They're not going to act, all of that. So,
I've lived all of that. I love how you framed that, because I have experienced that myself, where I've spoken with someone and truly they probably did see it within me, but they didn't let me discover it. And so it took me a lot longer to get there because I resisted, what they were saying. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I love, because really true there are a lot of coaches out there in the world. And they'll tell you what to eat, and they'll tell you when to exercise, and they'll regurgitate all the information. But a real coach draws the right information from within. And so thank you for sharing that perspective. I think it's important for people to know that.
I agree. Not to slam like people that call it coaching is a buzzword. It's a popular marketing term. But there's a lot of people that mislabel that and misuse it. Just like you said, they're consulting. What they're doing is consulting and advising.
Well, and I appreciate you pointing it out, because I agree. I don't want to ever take away from somebody who is doing that, because that's a needed thing too. I mean, there are, for whatever an individual, different people have different needs at a certain time. Maybe they do just need somebody. I have had so many people tell me, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And other people have different needs. And that's what's also beautiful about coaching. And one of the messages I think it's important to get out is that you have to absolutely resonate with the person that you are. If you're hiring a coach, you have to resonate with that person. Don't hire them just because they're in front of you telling you what you think you might need to hear. It's more about, do you connect? Do you feel like there's a connection, that they get you.
That they get you. Yes, that they get you, that they're not here to just push you and push their program and agenda and their roadmap and blueprint on you, but truly take the time to really sit with you. And there are people that thought I was a great fit from on paper, because there's things that you can read on a website that you think, but I'm very big on call. It's like always calling if you're going to enter into that coaching relationship. And there have been people where I'm like, what I think is my approach may not be the best fit in what you're looking for. I think what you want is a strategist and a roadmap and somebody to just kind of do that consultative approach. And I don't do that. So, and then I refer them on to somebody else. So yes.
Very, very interesting. And I don't know if you noticed, but I actually call myself, a life transformation coach and a mentor, because I feel like I bring a set of skills from my 30 years of that professional experience that, somebody that may be just starting out as a new supervisor or something like that could benefit from. It's like, okay, let me take off my coaching hat right now and let's talk about some practicalities about how to deal with that particular employee or something like that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Everybody has separate needs, and you just need a person that can help you where you are. Oh, this is awesome. So unless you have something else, I have just a couple of questions for you that I think may take us on a different avenue.
Go for it.
The first question is, because I'm working with professionals who have kind of hit that point where they realize, and I know the answer is yes, you've been there, but that point where it's like, wow, there's got to be more to this. God had to have created me for something other than this, because this just isn't working for me. Can you tell us what that experience was like and how you were able to get to the point where you realize, you talked about it earlier, getting in alignment with your calling? How did you make that transition?
So I've made many pivots, even within stepping into my purpose. Amen,
sister.
Yeah. So it's by no means, I think a lot of people could first, I write about this in my book, The Messy Middle. I think a lot of people first, if they're out of alignment with their purpose or don't even really clearly know what that is exactly, that's a painful point in and of itself. And a lot of them will think that once they get this breakthrough and clarity in their purpose, that it's going to be smooth sailing and everything's going to be wonderful from there. That was my story, and that it's not. It's full of setbacks and challenges and hardships and failure and pain and things not working out for you. But there's this incredible anchoring grace, because it's what you're designed to do and created for, that keeps you going and enduring. Where if you're doing something out of alignment with your purpose, like those hardships, goodness, they're hard enough. My goodness, you don't have that anchoring grace with you, you don't really last very long, or things start falling apart. Health goes down. You have very little anything to give to anybody. And it's honestly a living hell. And so I've had that. So I started my business, but then I say this a lot, the ego started hijacking the purpose. And I see this a lot. A lot of people step into their purpose, but then the ego hijacks it and takes you off course and brings in this mess, which is what I call the messy middle, and this confusion, and like you don't even know where you are anymore. So I had that, and for about 3 or 4 years, I was truly living in a fourth state, that comparison, that like pressure that it's all on me, that I have to do it all, that let me just rush ahead and do all the things and just do it all at once. And just like, I spent all this money misdiagnosing things, like, okay, well, now this marketer is saying that my website is bad, so let me strengthen my website. Now I need sales copy. Now I need to learn Facebook ads. Now I need to blah, blah, blah. And like, that's all technical stuff. And you know what? Like, you got to do the foundational work of being clear on who you are called to reach and what is the message that you are here to offer this specific group of people in this specific place in life. And then you can learn all the technical stuff and do all the things. But a lot of people put the cart before the horse, and they spend all this money on learning how to master a sales call when they don't even have people of interest in the first place. Like, right. They just like, they do it backwards, like I did, and then they get very, very discouraged because they have nothing to show for it. And they've got to pivot and like align and slow down and do that foundational work to get clear and grounded and centered and learn how to flow in alignment rather than by everyone else's agenda they're putting on you.
Oh, I love that. You know, when you started and you talked about how it's like you get this aha and you take off with this new adventure, and then it's not easy. One of the parallels that I've been thinking a lot about is, it's like we all know the story of the Israelites crossing the Jordan, and God, stopped the waters so they could walk across on dry land. And, it's kind of like when I was a kid and I heard that story, that was the end of the story. What I didn't realize until recently was when they got on the other side, yes, that was the promised land, but they had a lot of work to do to make it theirs. God didn't just give it to them on a platter and say, welcome, with banners and everything.
I know.
They had to fight wars, and
they had to fight for it. Yes.
They did. And that's kind of like it is when we find our calling, is we have that promised land that we finally, it's like, this is it. But it isn't handed to us on a platter. He wants us to keep taking the next step and then the next step. And he doesn't tell us the whole plan all laid out beautifully like we think it should be, right?
Right. Exactly. And so that wisdom was one of the things I learned, because I do think that there is a lot of, I write about this in the messy middle, like, especially for the younger generation, like, the social media can really skew our reality with the timeline of how things happen. Okay. We think things happen overnight or immediately. And we also tend to see extremes, either very, very high highs or very low lows, like either the wedding or the birth of a child, or like a devastation, a loss, a sickness, some kind of tragedy. We are very, very in the middle, everyday life are people posting on social media. So if you're on there a lot, like you're psychologically are starting to skew your perception of reality and what this process really, really is. And then we also have the microwave generation. We don't like to wait. Everything handed to us immediately. And building a business takes time. It takes years. It takes failure. It takes learning, and it's a process of discovery. It's trial and error. And if we go into this thinking, like you said, we're just going to be handed it, well, yes, God gives it to you. Yes, he'll go before you. Yes, he'll fight for you, and the favor's there, and the grace and the anointing and all of the stuff, he's with you. But like, you still got to slay the giants. You still got to conquer the land. You still then have to go through after the fight, clean up and gather. And even the miraculous, casting of the nets, miraculous fish catch, they were fishing day and night and didn't get anything. And by faith, they casted their net again. But then afterwards, it's they still had to clean the fish. They still had to sell it. They still had work to do. They didn't just keep the fish on the boat and walk away.
Good point. I love that. Yeah. Yes. So you have referenced a couple of times your book. Tell us about your book. I'm really interested. It sounds like.
Yeah. So it's called The Messy Middle, encouraging you through the frustrating gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And it's that, it's really just that. It's you feel this call, or you have this vision, but you don't have the blueprint. You don't have the detailed layout of how to build it and how to make it come to pass. And then you faithfully step in and you experience some resistance. And it's inspired by the story of Nehemiah and the rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem, and taking a look at how he led that project. And yes, miraculously, it was done in 54 days or something, very short for the amount of work that was done. What he had to go through to endure to get that is a great insight for us building, especially entrepreneurial. But it doesn't even have to be. Maybe it's a nonprofit, or maybe, whatever it is that maybe it's a team you're leading, or a project at work. It's just requiring getting people to buy the vision, to support you, having adversaries pushing against you, having resources and then running out of resources.
I love it.
Whole thing. And it's this intense thing. And Nehemiah had an amazing faith. He always went to God through every hardship. He always prayed. He always encouraged the people to pray. God was his source. And he had an amazing perseverance, an amazing focus. And I love Nehemiah 6:3, and I say this in my book, which is, I am doing a great work. Why should I come down to you and stop what I am doing? I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should I come down to you and stop this great work? And that's in response to the enemy's relentless attempts to distract him, to get him off course, to get him off mission, to get him to come down and attend to their agenda. And he just stayed the course. So I have that verse put on a huge, I had it custom made on Etsy, this huge picture in my office back home. And I look at that because it reminds me to tune into what am I working on right now? Is this part of the project? Is this part of the mission? Or have I gotten distracted?
I love that. So beautiful. So beautiful. So I'm assuming that people, we talked earlier about if people resonate with a particular coach and they want to work, there are people that may be listening today that would love to work with you. How can they find you?
Yes, my website is movedbypurpose.net. That's MOVED. So moved in the past tense, moved by purpose.net, like casting your net.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
um, and I have my book available for the book itself is free. There is a small shipping charge to get it mailed to you, but that is my gift to your audience. If they want a copy, they can go. I can give you the specific link to put in the show notes, but
Yes.
it's also like if you go to movebypurpose.net on the top, there's a link, grab my book for free, that can route you to that page, or you can check the show notes out for that specific page and how to get that.
Awesome. I love that you have a gift for the audience. And I, for one, am going to be signing up so I can get my copy. I'm excited to check that out. So let me see if there's, so we have your website. What's next?
So you also can connect with me on social media. I'm pretty big on Facebook, and I have my Facebook community. So I do Facebook Lives. I'm starting to do those on Wednesdays, and I do Q&A Thursdays as well. So if you have a question about living life in purpose or starting a business or whatever, you have the opportunity to check out those posts and post your question. And then on Thursdays, I jump on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. I jump on and answer that. So that's a way to kind of get some coaching tips and advice from me as well for
Awesome.
free, and tune into the community. And that's at Moved by Purpose on Facebook.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, this has been lovely. I have enjoyed learning more about you in this conversation. And I just want to ask, is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners today that maybe we haven't talked about?
I would say that alignment is important. So we hear a lot about taking massive action. There's a lot of messages out there on, hustle, grind, take massive action. And I do think there is a time and place for putting your hand to the plow and getting it done. But also, like, I am not a big proponent of taking action for action's sake. What is very powerful and effective is aligned action. So I've kind of dismissed the notion of massive action and instead say aligned action, because aligned action is massive action because it's in surrendered action, it's in obedience, and it's powered by God breathing on that and blessing it. And that is when you see the waters part. You step in and the waters part. So you start to see miracles happen and amazing movements of God when your action is aligned. So that is a big piece that I love to let everybody walk away and meditate on, is the power of alignment.
That is excellent advice, and I'm so glad that you shared that with us. Well, Stephanie, I really, really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your wealth of wisdom and experience. Some of that wisdom came by hard knocks, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did.
And I remember talking about those breadcrumbs from the early days. I remember a long time ago, and we aren't going to go into my story, but I remember saying many, many times, God didn't say it was going to be easy. He said it would be worth it.
So true. Absolutely. Love that.
Yeah. And I feel that you have done an excellent job of laying that out for us today. So I thank you so much for coming on the show. And like I said, I will put your contact information in the show notes so people can find you. And I just want to thank you for living your more and sharing it with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, folks, there you have it. The power of living in alignment. Wasn't that just an amazing conversation with an amazing woman? Thank you so much for stopping by today. I know this was a little longer, and I really appreciate you sticking with us to the end. Again, it was so rich with such great advice for life. I will put the connections in the show notes, but in case you don't get to that for some reason, you can find Stephanie at movedbypurpose.net. I hope you will go there and pick up her book, The Messy Middle. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. And then also, I hope that you will consider joining me in my 5 days to reconnect with the things that matter challenge. Yes, it started yesterday, but it's not too late to register, and you'll be able to see the videos and get caught up. It's just a few short minutes each day, but I promise that it will be rich with things that will really help you get to the point where you are on your path and you can live your more. Thanks for stopping by today. Go be blessed and live your more.